Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers, especially after we just encountered Valentine's Day. I know that this is troubling for a lot of viewers. They are experiencing heartbreak, heartache, particularly in relationships that are wrought with either withdrawal from someone who they were close to or heartbreak from something that happened a while ago. So I do have empathy going out for all of you. And I want to kind of discuss a little bit about sort of what makes a narcissist or a psychopathic relationship important to sort of reflect on energetically. When we talk about these relationships, I really want to help you kind of restore your strength and your optimism in the quantum field. So, the energy that is around you, that you are a part of. Oftentimes, it feels like they put baby in the corner. You're the one who's needing nurturing to be listened to, and you feel that you're just sort of not getting validation, you're not getting affection, attention. It can create a real sort of neurotic situation where people are very troubled. And when we're talking about a relationship with a narcissist energetically, or a psychopath, and I do kind of put these together in a similar category because there's a spectrum and a level, really, especially of these individuals, but also through people who are their supply, their support, people who are actively engaged with them, who are experiencing an offset of their own track in relationships. And it can take people by a whirlwind, a surprise. So energetically, when we talk about, someone who is narcissistic or psychopathic, there's sort of an energy that comes off of them. Karen Horney, she talks a lot about, she was a neo-Freudian German psychoanalyst. She kind of was butting up against Freud and a lot of his psychoanalysis. So she took things to the next level, especially for women. But she talks about sort of, a going towards and then, a going back of energy. And someone who's narcissistic, their energy can be very forward, just sort of almost like a blanket or a net where they just sort of, put this energetically over people and then pull them in. So it feels like attraction. It feels like this person is attracted and you're attracted to them. But yet, they lose a sense of feeling, coming towards them or attractiveness by this individual because they then couple this with the withholding or the withdrawal or a pulling away. So they tend to sort of pull at others energetically, if you will. There's an attraction that's being stimulated with these individuals, but oftentimes they are based on a manipulation and the things that create what Karen Horney might call neuroses, anxiety, social anxiety about behaving in a relationship. And it sort of is pinpoint or triggered by this one person. Your creative flow should not have that snag. You've got, healing and recovery is about having resilience and understanding really how to navigate life energetically. Your energy, your feeling, your emotion, that has to be sort of released instead of having an emotional dam built where you're told to, back it off, shut it off, or it just sort of, deteriorates and there's no one to sort of work it out with. And, there's a feeling that, you've had to comply with demands that are outside of yourself. It's important then in recovery to turn that compliance within. In other words, rather than being complying with the judgment that they are holding up of others, turn that around and then have that internal locus of control. Because energetically, someone who is narcissistic, they really love to have the attention on them. They just want to be the leaders. This can be a great personality trait, where someone has strengths and others appreciates them. It can be a good fit. It can be a good relationship. However, part of the relationship issue is the sort of anxiety or social anxiety that a narcissist or a psychopath will display. Am I liked? Do people like me enough? Am I pleasing? Am I attractive? Am I getting the jokes? Am I getting the laughs? Am I getting the high fives? Am I getting the the high fives at work, going with this project? They're always about sort of getting in, that energy, out and then sort of pulling in, where they're sort of casting a net, almost like a dark web feeling. And it's, part of their assertiveness, aggression, their expansion. But you have to be careful because people get swept up in this sort of real strong attraction, always going back to this person. What made the relationship work? Why was I attracted? While you're in the relationship, it can create a lot more questions than answers. So if you look at it energetically, that quantum field of healing, it's important to realize that expansiveness belongs to you, not just the narcissist, not just the psychopath. Oftentimes there's this exclusivity. It's all about you, and I'm just going to be, waddling along, and as if I'm following, and then just to, catch your tails and pick up your tails, and lay down my shirt while lay down my jacket so you can walk across the puddle, woman included. Feeling that there has to be a lot of sacrifice. And once again, the sacrifice, of selflessness, is part of the dynamic in a relationship with one of these individuals. Especially when we talk about the more severe, the psychopathic, these individuals, they love to sort of have that command and power and control. They want to be on the one on top. They have a reward that they feel intrinsically from this sort of aggressiveness. And they will take companies by storm. They'll take families by storm. They'll take communities by storm. And so you might have felt a comfort or a shelter in their leadership for some period of time. In other words, they've got me under their wing. We're jetting off together. There's this sort of, feeling of a bond or connection. But the problem with, when you're getting into the psychopathy, you're talking about someone who has always sort of keeping a lot of options open for themselves, even though it seems, or they might present, that they are all in with the relationship with others. In other words, they're keeping a lot of plates spinning in the air. They have, something over here, but you don't realize that they have other plates spinning that they don't clue you in on, they don't communicate, but that you might learn about, through the grapevine. And then, you have felt that you have sort of arranged your life to have the values placed on them and then complying with the values that are engendered in this relationship, which oftentimes can be very different. When you're talking about a psychopath, you're talking about someone who is very potent with their communication, brainwashing and gaslighting, meaning sort of rearranging a vapidness within others that gets them sort of easy to bend to their will. Meaning that, your sense of your own willfulness, your own willingness, your own free will becomes sort of shut down, like, turned off. I mean, there's an energetic change that occurs in a relationship with these individuals that can be very difficult to understand because perhaps you didn't see this coming, and so not knowing how to handle. And so energetically, they might seem like a leader and very charismatic, and that you were there forever, part of this. So they tend to sort of communicate this foreverness. And vapid means often offering nothing that is stimulating or challenging. Offering nothing that is stimulating or challenging, meaning the relationship is not, causing you to be able to live freely in the relationship. Uninspiredless, uncolored, uninteresting, feeble, or flat. And so that vapidity, I feel, is a real good way to understand when the relationship goes south, when it goes sour, when you begin to expose the narcissist or the psychopath and you find out that the relationship is not based on strength and open communication and honesty. I mean, you just blew the lid off. The puzzle pieces are all over the floor. You're crouched down trying to put all this together. And it's to realize that the relationship then for you, rather than it being the interesting, enlightening, inspiring, and creative relationship that you thought it was going to be, it's actually the opposite. It is dull and uninspiring. It doesn't have, you feel like you have a place there. It's not challenging, meaning you're not growing, you're not going new places, you're not having new discussions, you're not having big laughs, you're not having big cries, you're not having big high fives, you're not having thought, you're not being able to enjoy and absorb and consume life, because you do, part of being life, you're a consumer, you have to be able to consume and create. You have to have this balance of productivity, but also consuming. And there's oftentimes nothing to really for you or to consume or internalize, because they kind of put that fire out. They kind of make sure that you go into the, the worst nosebleed seats for life. I mean, where they are going to have the box seats. They're betting their energy on this division, this separation. And it's a red flag if you're feeling this sort of emptiness, and it doesn't have anything to do with you being dull or being uninteresting or any of those things. It's just how a narcissist kind of, and especially a psychopath, they have more of a consumptive nature where they really consume others on a vampiric level, meaning they'll just use, they just go through people like clockwork. Like they go through people like the flavor of the week, the flavor of the month. They just use them as a resource. It's just how they look at things. It's not subjective. They don't have any feeling. They don't have any emotion. They don't have the connection. So if you are a person of empathy and with heart, then chances are you were told a sob story. You were told, something about them, a hardship, and it had you there as a captive audience, where you were there for them. Let me put my jacket on the puddle, or they might have, made you feel and filled in your needs. So there's this feeling of like forever bond. But the psychopath knows that if they can create that, they just have you locked in for their use. So it can be a true red flag once you get some distance, and don't be afraid of a distance from this relationship. People oftentimes felt that they were an authority, that they were something to look up to, admire. I mean, this could have been the beginning of the relationship. I mean, and this is your true gut feeling. You have to be able to look at that cause that's created the effect and how it has its place in your life the way that it does now. And perhaps, your vision then needs to be opened up. You need to get a new vision then. Because if you were looked up to them, maybe as a mentor, or maybe as, you had a cohesiveness where we were going to do this together, and you relied on them, maybe even depended on them financially, emotionally, we were going to have, this dinner together, we're going to have this party, we're going to have this sit down, we're going to go to Sunday morning services, all these different things that you count on for the ebb and flow of the relationship. And then all of a sudden, that opportunity is not there. So you need to realize that part of your recovery in getting out of a relationship with a narcissist is to get back to the big picture. There's a lot more going on for you than this problem. There's a lot more good that's going on with you than this issue. It feels like this issue can be all encompassing, ruin people's lives, make them feel unattractive. And it comes in the course of the communication, or perhaps the insults, criticism, that they feel is, they might say, well, it's constructive criticism. It's criticism nonetheless. And whether they're trying to build you into something for them, that is the problem, because people oftentimes feel that they're building the relationship and it's for them, it was not for you. And then they take out a lot of these links, and then you're feeling wobbly, not whole. You don't have something that you need to be strong or secure or back on the road. So this is just part of the aftermath. You have to realize the cause that creates this effect oftentimes is the social anxiety that a narcissist or a psychopath have. They need a lot of people. They need, and it's not like a YouTube channel or a Facebook page where you want people have followers. it's different than that. They need other people to validate them. They need other people to stroke their ego. They need other people to listen to them, and they won't do the same so for others. So it's an inequality in the relationship. So some people, they willingly enter that relationship, but they don't know the outcome when you enter in. You don't know the outcome when you enter in. So you might have realized, you thought that this person was marriage material, love material, reliable material, and you find that they aren't reliable, it isn't a good fit. It is what it is. Don't be afraid to acknowledge and be honest with what this is, because that oftentimes it can be so overwhelming. I think that people, maybe shut down. It can be, I think as a viewer so aptly stated, it can be daunting. Meaning it can be like, where do I even start? It can be that global or universal for you. So realize, there's a Gestalt psychology, be able to know that you are whole, you are individual. You do perhaps maybe have some work to do. Understanding where the pitfalls went. Where did, we go wrong, I go wrong, it go wrong, things go wrong. What happened? It is what it is. And, look at it with heart, and look at it with compassion and empathy for yourself when you're reviewing these things to make things less daunting. Just have compassion for self, have empathy for self. Oh my gosh, give yourself some, some empathy and say, man, you've been through a lot. Of course you feel this way. This is normal. This is natural to feel heartbroken, to have anxiety, to meet another person. Is this going to happen again? The fear base, though, you can reduce that fear base once you begin to trust in yourself and kind of look and see that you do have power in relationships, that you don't have to be, this sort of compliant and only needing to look up to this person. You are worthy of being admired and having other things that you look up to in life. So it's important, I think, if you've been through this relationship aspect with someone who is narcissistic, to realize that this is an aftermath. It's like a red flag, that you didn't see coming, but it was, oftentimes there all the while. So if you've been in this relationship for some period of time, you might need to do some foundational work, some I am work, some believing in yourself and looking at your self-limiting beliefs. I can't do this. These subtle messages that you want to push down, you got to say, what? You got to be, with those feelings. And, who's telling you can't? Who's telling you you're a failure? Who's telling, all this, I'm defeated? These are a lot of the negative emotions that keep you blocked. It's part of working through it. But realize that is oftentimes just an aftermath in flawed thinking. It's a bad habit. And you might need to kind of go through that and see how your thoughts are then creating these negative feelings and emotional blocks. So you can't produce, you can't work, you can't create, you can't smile, you can't cook. If all these are the sign that the creator is you're blocking your own creativity. You're blocking your own ability. You're trying to say no when life is trying to say yes. Let go of this. So if you can understand that this is happening for you, and as I say before, look at it with an aspect of nostalgia and compassion for self. And man, you really went all in. You went hard. Acknowledge and validate your experience. You were all in. You really wanted this. You really had a dream. You had a vision. Own those feelings. It is what it is, and it will get better. It won't be so daunting once you kind of get things into bite-sized pieces and really metaphorically cut it, down to size in your mind, rather than it making this like big billboard like experience. Put it down to like, maybe, a 2 by 4 feet, 1 by 3 feet, just bring it down to size, bring it down to scale, bring it down to 8.5 by 11. and then bring it down to 4 inches by 6.5 inches, and then bring it down to a postage size stamp. Get it so it's not looming so big in your mind because you're overwhelming yourself. Don't do that to yourself. Coming out of these relationships can put you in a tailspin, a head spin, and feeling like you're making a lot of mistakes. Well, you have to experiment. You have to try. You are the one living your life. The narcissist, you're not living the narcissist life. You're living your own life. It's okay to detach. But oftentimes I think there's this commitment that takes place in the love bombing where it's like, I'll be with you forever, is how they want you to feel in the beginning, this forever relationship, and you make this sort of glued in, and then you find out it's not the same on the other side. So you're like sticking to a wall, and they're like, someplace else. So it can feel very lost or alone. So that's just, part of the aftermath of the relationship. Don't take it so hard, and realize that there's a big picture out there, and it'll give you a chance to sort of restore the fact that where you want and need to be is surrounding yourself with people sometimes who are not, the big ego, just the people who are genuine, the people who are simple, the people who, are just, every day, that you perhaps did not see because you were so absorbed or overwhelmed with this person and thought that all of a sudden you found yourself with them. So it can be a lot of formative years, and that can be your takeaway, your positive takeaway from this relationship. It's your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day.